friendos. Welcome back to the Marketing for Learning podcast. And yet again, I have managed to get Hannah to laugh in the first 5 seconds of the podcast. You are welcome.
Silent laugh. It does not count.
I could hear you sniggering.
I was
They
sniggering.
can hear you sniggering.
Howdy doodles.
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
I said howdy doody.
We said howdy doodles.
I like yours better. Howdy doody is like a common phrase. That's not like a...
No, this is your weird upbringing again, Ash. I've never heard that in my life.
The strange
Maybe
accent.
for our American listeners are like, yeah, Hannah, you're wrong. But I think you say that to most Brits. They'll be like, are you okay?
Yeah. Have we ever told the guests, we'll get on to the really important bit in a minute, but have we ever told the guests about the single comment that we've had on the Spotify podcast?
No, we've not discussed that on a podcast. And it's still my favourite thing ever. So I was, after Spotify Wrapped came out, I was digging through our Spotify for Podcasters account and realised that you guys can actually leave us comments on Spotify. So if you want to do that, feel free. But the
We'll
one
see it in a
comment
year.
we've had, exactly. The one comment we've had so far was like, really great podcast. Can't quite place where the host is from. Is she from America? Is she from England? And I think they asked if you were Irish as well, didn't they?
Yeah, it was
They
just
definitely
like
weren't talking
literally...
about me.
No, but there you go. So there's the accent remains a mystery
But
for us all.
clearly, if that person's still listening, they're not that loyal, because if within the first year we definitely answered that question on the podcast. So they're going to have to go back to the start and listen to them all.
Can't remember his name. Let's go
No.
through Stephen.
I really hope people get that joke.
Well, if they don't, they're not regular
They're
listeners.
not loyal listeners. We're going to start being petty. If you know,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh dear, right. Well, as much as this dribble is wonderful and deeply entertaining for us, I'm sure people are like, I signed on to this to listen to something titled The
Yeah.
Technology Trap, and you guys haven't talked about anything yet but crap. So
They love us.
I guess we'll stop. Sure, yeah, that's, I think, the story. So obviously this session is episode 4 in our transformation series. So we're really exploring all the kind of key touch points that L&D needs to have in order to really transform and redefine their learning function this year. You know, there's a lot of conversation around building value in our organizations through learning. And that isn't just a case of, you know, building new learning products. In fact, that's pretty much what we're going to talk about today. So thus far, we've talked about data and how that's really crucial in terms of understanding our audiences and understanding the business as a whole and how we align with both those things. So that conversation with Derek and Mitchell was great. And then you and I obviously talked a lot about how we can lobby and influence stakeholders and really get them involved in what we're doing, get that buy-in early doors, again, leveraging our research in order to do that effectively. And then we just launched the podcast today, in fact. This is how much we fly by the seat of our pants, guys.
I was about to say, you're
And that
giving away
was-
our secrets here, Ash. We recorded
I
this
don't
months ago.
Yeah. We did a podcast that, 3 weeks ago that is going out until May with somebody else. And we're like, what?
That organisation is not for me.
We'll probably have changed what we do by May, let's be honest.
Exactly.
So obviously that conversation with Georgie was all about transforming employee experience through learning. So understanding that, yes, we have a big role to play in terms of the employee experience, but there is a bigger kind of thing running around in terms of the organizational culture and the role that plays in how people perceive learning and how they engage with it as well. So carrying on from that, we obviously want to talk about technology. Technology dominates our industry, I would say. The Learning Technologies event is the biggest in Europe. It's literally an event about learning technologies. And it is, in my opinion, very much what leads the kind of agenda in L&D. Our industry is very vendor-led because we're heavily influenced by technology. All the vendors predominantly sell some sort of technology solution. So we kind of are already in like a bit of a echo chamber with it anyways. But I think what I really want to tackle today is the biggest misconception that technology alone can fix the problem, because spoiler alert, it literally can't. And I think, we want to really dig into the root cause of our issues here rather than just my LMS isn't working. It's because I haven't got an LXP. I'm going to get an LXP. And then once I have an LXP, well, that's not working. And that's because I don't have AI, so I need to get and so on and so forth. And we're just like chasing our tails, trying to replace old tech with new tech, but we haven't actually solved the problem. And I see this pretty much across the board. So it definitely needs to be talked about in terms of how we look at our learning as a product, and really the role that technology plays within all that.
Absolutely. And I think before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, we are not saying to bin off your learning platforms. We are not saying that tech does not matter, but it alone is not going to solve all the problems. And I think sometimes when we're talking to people in L&D, it often feels quite black and white, yes or no. You like technology or you don't. And we're not saying that. We want you to get the best from your tech by leveraging everything else around it. The tech platform alone is not going to solve your engagement challenges. The tech platform alone is not going to revolutionize your whole learning culture. And that's the mindset of many L&Ders. So that when we say actually tech alone is not enough, or when we first started saying that whole build it and they didn't come, people kind of thought we were bashing the tech, and that's not the case at all.
No, tech's a tool, right?
Exactly.
And it's something that we absolutely must have. We've got to have. I mean, we've just procured an LMS for our strategic marketing for L&D course. Like, it's an important tool to enable you to do delivery of learning experiences. It's not the tool itself. It's the obsession with the technology as being the panacea, being the solution to everything, the silver bullet, the magical thing that's suddenly going to rid you of your ails when it comes to learner engagement. And, I've seen on more than one occasion a significant implementation of a new learning systems in particular, but I want to talk about content libraries as well. And I've rarely seen that overcome the challenges that they're seeking to solve with the problem. And I think that, like, if you want my humble opinion, a lot of that spurs from the fact that we don't really, again, take the time to do two things. One is understanding what the real problems actually are, i.e., if people aren't using the tech, you have an engagement problem. Is it the tech's problem? Is it outdated? Is it not what people are expecting? Is the UI really clunky? Are people finding it difficult to navigate and engage and find what they need quickly? Then yes, the tech is probably part of the problem. But the bigger piece of the pie, again, is understanding, is it meeting the needs of the business? Is it meeting the needs of the learner? We don't ever go to the drawing board and go root cause analysis. What is actually causing the tech disengagement? We're just going, the tech's not working. We need some new tech because of all the messages around.
We hear that narrative a lot about, like, learning platforms. Oh, I'm not getting enough engagement, so I'm going to go and get a new learning platform. I'm going to go get a new LMS, or I'm going to get an LXP. But actually, we have that same narrative around everything within L&D, whether it's your authoring tool, animation tools, all of these individual little pieces of learning tech say, I'm going to solve your engagement problems. None of them have done it so far, have they? And we've been around here for a very long time now. It's not working. And it comes back to what you just said there, Ash, about that root cause analysis. What is it that's making your audience unengaged? What is it that's limiting your ability of making real impact? Chances are it's not the tech. And in a little defense for some of the tech vendors, most organizations are only scratching the surface of what tech can actually do and then blaming the tech for it being wrong. So I think it all comes back, in my opinion, to that root cause analysis. What is the actual problem? What are your audience needing and wanting? And what are you giving or not giving them?
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is, so if you imagine like a really disengaged audience, people are hating on your learning experiences, the vast majority of people believe through what they've encountered so far, and some of them haven't done anything, but those that do believe that the learning that you offer and the experiences that are available, the technology that's present, is not fit for purpose for them. They've made that decision based on whatever, right? Whether that's their friends in a different department telling them about it, or through their own lived experiences. So that's the mindset of most of the people in your organization. They're either apathetic or they don't even really know what's going on, right? Those are probably the two things you're majorly contending with as a culture when it comes to learning. So then you go, oh, well, people are on the learning platform. We can see that no one really comes on it. We've got that data. We'll get a new system. And to add to that, we're going to put loads of new content libraries in there because people clearly aren't happy with what we've got. So we're going to refresh everything. Like, the intention's really good, right? Like, we want to make it better for people. We think that the problem is the tech because people aren't using the tech. It's like a very obvious deduction. But what we forget to consider is the landscape that you're bringing that new technology into and that new experiences into. So if you've got a really apathetic, disengaged audience, it doesn't matter how good the technology is. It doesn't matter how cutting edge anything that you offer these people are, because they already think it's shit. So you're going to have to understand that. And of course, later down the line, that's where marketing comes in. But we don't consider that. I think we just replace like for better, and not even like for like, and think that that's enough to fix it all.
And I think as well, I'm in the midst of a discovery project, a market research project with one of our clients, and I'm talking to people at the moment. So I'm very much with my learner mindset on right now. And I'm talking to people, and this organisation have a phenomenal learning platform with a huge learning library in it. So there's so much content. They've got stuff they've created bespoke for the organisation. There's so much in there. That in and of itself is the barrier to people getting engaged. I have now spoken to people that are in like shop floor kind of jobs. So they're in factories and on manufacturing lines. I've spoken to people that are in offices, and they go, I go there and I'm so overwhelmed that I don't go back. And then some other people are then saying to me, oh, my boss told me it's overwhelming and I won't find anything, so I don't bother. Like, the tech kind of is the issue at that point, but not the actual tech. It's how you're using it. It's that we're cramming it full with stuff that's overwhelming an already overwhelmed audience. We're living in a world where everyone's a little bit overwhelmed now. Like, it's just the state of where we are post-pandemic. You see all this research about how people are feeling and how we're operating, and it's talked about a lot in marketing circles because people are trying to get us to buy stuff. How do they better communicate with us? We are in the same boat in learning. We've got budget cuts, we've got restructuring, we've got people being made redundant. How can we talk to those people in a better way? And it's not just talking to them. It's making sure that we're surfacing stuff that isn't adding more friction to the problem. We want to simplify the processes. A new piece of tech is not going to solve that. If you're just lifting and shifting stuff into a new LMS and thinking that's going to solve the problem, it's not.
No, because the problems persist, right? And
Exactly.
and I agree. Like when you were saying there, the what we're basically doing. I don't know if you remember that LinkedIn post I did a couple of weeks ago where I said essentially we are both underwhelming and overwhelming our people at the exact same time, because we're giving them so much that they do feel overwhelmed, and that comes out consistently in the research we do. Combine that with the fact that they're also really underwhelmed with the experience because they don't feel that it's relevant for them. They're not really sure what to do or where to go. They don't know how it pertains to their role, like all stuff we've talked about before. And so the product is fundamentally the problem, but it's how we've packaged that product up. So I think, like, if you want my honest opinion, if the technology's good enough, but the experiences are really refined, relevant, curated, giving a sense of personalization, and as long as the UX is not very clunky, that in my opinion is probably enough. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You need the experience to be better, not necessarily the technology to be cutting edge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was
what
actually
your thoughts
talking to somebody at World of Learning, and I feel awful. I'm so sorry if she started listening to this podcast. I can't remember her name. But she was talking me through her learning experience platform, her learning experience, sorry, not the platform. She was talking me through the whole process. And essentially, she sounds like she has developed a better learning experience using SharePoint. She wasn't allowed to go invest in LMS, but she has thought through the entire journey. Everything is bucketed, so it's clear where people need to go. She has thought about the user's journey in the whole process. No fancy tech. All she had was a SharePoint platform. And now, because she's getting benefits from that, the business is going, oh, this is working. What more help can we give? And she's like, it'd be great if I could have an actual learning platform so I could see some more data. But she was getting phenomenal impact just by thinking through the user experience, not going out and procuring more tech, not going out and buying a new authoring tool, not making sure she had to have an LXP before she could do it. The tech isn't the solution to our biggest challenges. It's how we're approaching the challenges, in my opinion, that is the biggest game changer. If you approach it with that UX mindset, that marketing mindset, go out and do the research, understand the people, and then build a product that's actually fit for their needs. We've been talking a lot recently about the product market fit. We've got to make sure that's there. And product doesn't just mean you're learning tech. It's your overall solution.
Yeah. All roads lead to, hey, talking to your people.
Crazy idea.
It's a strange notion to think that in order to build a product, you should talk to people about the product. It's, it's not a practice that we execute in L&D.
And
the ideas... Good.
I just think as well, it's an art that seems to have kind of been lost. Not just in L&D. I will give L&D their dues there. But if we go back to like the 90s, I'm going to give myself away here for being the world's biggest loser. I was watching a documentary the other day about boy bands from the 90s.
Was it the Boyzone one?
No, it wasn't the Boyzone one. I haven't got round to that yet. But this was about
the one on Netflix about Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
No,
that one was
it was
bad.
one on
I've watched
ITV
all of
Hub.
them, so
there you go. It was one on the ITV. I think it was on
what
ITV.
about
It
this
might have been
one?
iPlayer. But they were literally showing clips of market researchers going out and saying, what do you think of this boy band? What's your opinion on them? What do you think of this music? Do you think this logo works better or that logo? We were asking people so many questions. And we're now in a world that's so saturated. We've just got so much stuff thrown at us that we've kind of lost that art of sense checking and seeing what's actually resonating. What a wonderful world it would be if, when designing your learning product, you run a little focus group, you run a little testing session. Hey, I want you to find a piece of learning on leadership. How would you follow that? And see them click all the wrong places before they end up where you think they're meant to go. I worked with a company called 123 Reg. They're part of GoDaddy. And as I was leaving, it was my undergrad placement. As I was leaving, they were just revamping their website. And I sat in on a session just like that. And it was like, okay, go and buy a domain. Where would you go? And everyone was clicking in the wrong places. And then they built the experience around what the intuition of the person is. I know we haven't got all the time in the world. And people listening to this probably like, oh, well, I'm an L&D professional. I've got to do this, 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 and this. But we have to invest the time in getting it right. We have to really think about that user journey and that user experience. And like you've already said, Ash, all goes back to actually talking to your audience.
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is, if we don't get this bit right, then everything else kind of flops anyway. So we may as well invest the time to really understand, like, this is the foundational work that needs to happen. This is your learning strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Your learning strategy isn't, I'm going to implement a new learning platform and we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. No, my first port of call is to understand the lay of the land as it currently is, really see what's working, what's not, and understand why, and then start to define strategies that solve those problems, as long as they're still focusing on the business problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in bringing in a new LMS if the business genuinely isn't focusing on L&D, right? Like, you're going to have to find other ways to make it relevant, or do pilots to test and prove, like your friend did there.
Yep.
That actually this is worth investment and this is valuable. So, I think it's a bit of a house of cards, really. If we don't get these foundational bits right, it's not a surprise that everything subsequent fails or not fails, but, and again, like, it's not because our intentions are bad. It's not because we want to do anything wrong. I think it is just an obsession with technology has led us to a place where we have technology bloat now. We're stockpiling content like nobody's business, and it does us nothing. No good. There's no benefit. in, like, I was just saying to you today, like, I'm going to start deleting email addresses out of our CRM. People who are not engaging with us, let's just delete them. Because what's the point in keeping their information? It's of no use to us. So what's the point in having all that content if it's just sitting there and never being used?
And it comes back to a mindset thing as well. And this might be a bit of an abstract example for those listening, because obviously you and I were both straight-laced marketers at this point, working in-house. But when the GDPR laws, so it's a General Data Protection something or another in the UK, in 2018
regulation,
came
maybe?
out. Regulation, something like that, yeah. When they came out, all marketers had to like sort out their CRMs, make sure everybody was in there for a valid reason, that we wasn't storing any data that wasn't needed. And the better marketers use that as the opportunity to cull and clear out their data lists to make sure that we only had people in there that were actually engaging with us, actually cared and wanted to be there. And my boss didn't want me to delete the 20-odd thousand people out of our CRM. And I had this exact conversation. And it's vanity. And I think the same goes when your learning platforms are stuffed full of content libraries. We have 7 million courses for you to choose from. It's overwhelming. Nobody's going to use them. So I think there's a mindset shift of what really matters, and vanity metrics don't. Just like the number of contacts you have in your CRM system does not matter. If you've got an engaged audience, that's what matters. The amount of content in your learning platform does not matter, as long as it is the right content for your audience and you're not overwhelming them. And I'm honestly getting a little bit bored of going into discovery calls and learners telling me I log on and it takes me like 15, 20 minutes to find anything of use. And then it's a half an hour course and I've only got a 45-minute break. We are putting up barriers by jamming our content into these platforms that aren't thought of in a UX way, that we ourselves mess up by ruining some of the UX that tech companies do design them. And if they're used in the way that tech companies want them to, the UX and the process is a lot more simple. But we don't do that in L&D because we just like to put everything in everyone's face. We are making it more complicated by not actually going to the audience and working out what do you need and how can I deliver that to you in the best possible way.
Yep. So first of all, you and I aren't well because I mentioned the GDPR thing in a previous podcast, maybe with the one with Derek Mitchell or Georgie, but certainly in the last few episodes, so that's not okay.
Awkward moment when you can tell I haven't listened to the full podcast episode.
She's mean.
I'm not a loyal listener.
Your name's obviously Stephen.
Clearly.
So, that I totally agree with everything you're saying. And, I was thinking when you were speaking there, and like, the reality is, okay, so you have course libraries because most companies don't let you just cherry pick what you want, right? Like, you get it all because that's the value add. In inverted
commas. It only
commas.
works out to £1 a course. Woohoo!
Yes, exactly, right? So that's where the value add comes, or where they start to try and kind of differentiate and add value. So if you don't have the capability to create everything yourself in-house from scratch, or you don't have the budget to outsource that to bespoke content providers or program providers, then at least create the experience of segregating the stuff that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
So if you're start thinking, I don't have the time to do that, well, FML, your learners don't either. Look at where we are. So, again, if we go out and ask the right questions and understand really what people need and want and desire from that learning experience, we should be in a position to cultivate and curate personalization, i.e., even if that is on SharePoint, like leave your LMS as a content repository that most people don't visit. Do what your lady did and create a SharePoint experience where, oh my God, I can send all my managers to this, basically a portal. Yeah. Stuff that's linked back to the LMS. They can take content over to there, but they don't have to go there. They don't have to find something. You found the things. You said, hey, you look like you could do with X, Y, and Z. That's why we've done this for you. I just don't know how we honestly expect people to connect with the notion of a wealth of information is right at your fingertips. It's genuinely overwhelming. You know, we too much choice in these environments is not a selling point at all.
And how do we expect to garner any form of long-term engagement if we keep doing what we've always done? We've got a Gen AI course, we've got a leadership course, we've got a GDPR course, we've got a management course, and all these individual things. We need to start thinking of it as a process. And if we want people to engage with the process and the journey of learning, we've got to start operating in that way. Because if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have the time to do this, I can bet my bottom dollar that you're probably thinking, I have a blah, blah, blah course to develop and launch and market. And you're just thinking of that small program. You're not thinking of the long-term bigger picture. I understand some people listening to this might have managers that are blockers and all things like that. We all have those problems too. But we've got to start thinking longer term, bigger picture. If you are genuinely sat there thinking, I've got this one thing that I really need to give my full attention on, even though I know the LMS is on fire over there and it's not working for me, the priorities of your L&D team just aren't quite right.
Yeah, because it boils down to damage limitation at this stage, in my opinion. So this isn't like, how do we change our learning culture? At this stage, how do you stop the learning culture that's being developed by the experiences that you're currently providing? Where are you hemorrhaging from? Where do you need to go put out the fires? Like, this is what we should be looking at. And, you know, I've said before, I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we do need to take a breath and a pause and really understand what it is that we're trying to achieve and address that accordingly. Technology is not a strategy. You know, it's just, that is not, that can't, if your learning strategy is new systems, new content, that's not a strategy. That doesn't, you know, that's like me saying, hey, Han, we're going to do some LinkedIn posts. That's our strategy.
Yay. That would get us
cool. Yeah, to be fair, that has been, I was just, shut up, but you get my point.
Nobody said, look, it's that thing my dad always used to say to me, do as I say, not as I do. And that's what we're telling everyone on this podcast.
Again, the truth of the matter is, we do what we do in the way that we do it because we know the industry very well and we know what works, what lands, what doesn't, etc. And there's a genuine amount of sincerity behind us trying to educate and elevate the L&D industry around this stuff. We know because we've talked to a lot of people and we understand the industry. And I think the gap in what we're discussing is learning and development professionals are not having the right conversations with their target audience or their stakeholders or the business. And so the result is a very siloed, shrinking experience where we continue to just look inwards, trying to solve our problems. And, you know, it may be that everything you've got is fine or good enough. It may be that you just need to approach everything in a very different way to create that feeling of personalization and relevancy. Tech is the tool. The tech is the facilitator. The tech is not the strategy. This is probably L&D's biggest investment, right? Most functions will spend significant sums of money on a platform and then maybe the content that sits within it. That's where a lot of our spend goes. So again, if we're really investing in these things and tied into significant contracts a lot of the time, you know, it isn't a case of, oh, I don't like my LMS, I'm going to change it. Like, you're probably stuck with it for 2, 3, 5 years. You get locked in. So understanding what the attitude of the people that are using it is, why people are avoiding using it is, even just the simple discoveries that you've had, it's shone a bright light on what's going wrong and what needs fixing. It's a behemoth task to change all of that. But the first step is that research piece, you know, because otherwise we will just continue to aimlessly deploy further tech with no real end in sight for solving our actual problems because we're just in the same cycle of behavior of swapping like for like or swapping something, you know, okay for something swizzy, woohoo, but it doesn't really do anything.
And I think both of us absolutely empathise with that. Like you've already said, we've just procured an LMS. So we went through that process. And there was, at least 2 platforms that we were like, oh, this is nice. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's all bells and whistles. We didn't go with that because that wasn't the right thing for our audience. That wasn't going to deliver the right, effective, learning experience. And I get it why people fall into that trap if you're sitting there in despair and thinking, oh, I can't get my audience engaged. And somebody's going, here's the silver bullet. This is how you're going to get engagement. It's tempting. But I think we need a little bit of that common sense and really think of it in detail and go, actually, is that going to solve the issue? If I have a platform over here that nobody's going to, or if I have a piece of e-learning that's been created on X authoring tool and I recreate the exact same thing on Y authoring tool, is that going to solve the engagement problem? If I get a new LMS over here to gather dust, are people going to go to it? Well, no, not if they're not going to your current one. We need to it's that root cause analysis piece. We need to have that common sense to think, okay, somebody's promising me a lifeline here, but is that actually going to help?
Yeah, and if we ask the right questions and we're getting good detailed research back, it means that if we identify that the tech is a blocker and actually we do need something better, it means that we can have better conversations with the providers of that technology too, because we can be much clearer on the problems we're genuinely trying to solve. If we're just going, we have bad engagement, but we want good engagement, and this new technology will give me good engagement. You guys can't see what I'm doing, but I'm doing something really weird with my fingers for no reason.
This is going to be a clip on LinkedIn.
Yes. But you get my point, right? So we're trying to swap bad engagement for good engagement, but the granularity and the minutiae of all of that is the important bits. Why do you have bad engagement? Is it UI? Is it because there's a lack of human centricity in what you have? Is it the navigational aspects? Is it bloated content libraries? Mm-hmm. Is it outdated content? That's all of those problems are solved in different ways, and the technology or the vendors or the providers that you would use to solve those problems might be quite different. You can have much more informed conversations and ensure that the investment that you're going to have is worthwhile and has a fighting chance of actually solving some of your problems. If you have the answers to those bigger questions, it isn't just we have really bad engagement. I mean, they should be asking these questions too, but like you said, if the promise is we'll fix your engagement issue, but we're only going out trying to fix our engagement issue, it's solving our problem because that's the only problem we think we have. Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think it comes back. It was actually not last year, the year before, at Ellen Connect, that Tom McDowell was doing a live podcast. And somebody said, overcoming engagement. He was like, wait, we're pausing this. What do you mean by engagement? Mm-hmm. And I love that. Is engagement nobody's going to the LMS, we're not even getting the logins? Is it they're starting courses, then falling off? Is it they're bored halfway through, they do one course and they never come back? What does that mean? Because if I say I'm solving your engagement challenges, I should be able to answer how I'm going to help you tackle each of those problems, not just I solve engagement challenges.
Sure. And if we don't really know what it is that we're trying to solve, then we can't really fix it, right? And I don't really understand how we don't want to ask those questions. If okay, well, people aren't engaging, what does that mean? And again, let's go back to the beginning of all of this. Aligning with the business is something Georgie and I talked about a little bit, was the fact that not everything needs to be measured, right? She was giving me a really great example of solving a problem for a big client of theirs, and they had they basically had a very convoluted, complex process in their marketing team that no one could kind of get their heads around. So rather than at first they had a big e-learning module, and they came to Lima Delta to basically say this ain't working, what can we do? And the solution that they came up with was they basically kind of built it all into the AI systems that the marketing team were using so that they could be in the flow of work and all of that sort of stuff. That was solving a really legitimate business problem. Mm-hmm. And I think if we aren't really trying to understand what's important to the business, right? So engagement versus what's important to the business. I don't need to know that everybody's using everything, but the things that are really a focus for us, that's where we need people to be actively using it, actively applying it, and then hopefully subsequently changing their behaviors. You know, we can't just say we need more engagement.
What does that mean?
But like, are we looking at the whole spectrum of learning? There's probably quite a lot of, if you would prescribe to 70-20-10, there's an awful lot of learning already happening in your organization. So,
and I think as well, we really want to make impact here. That's what L&D is here for. We want to make impact. We want to instigate that performance change. If you're going to, I don't know, the CFO of your organisation and going, oh, well, we're struggling with engagement, but people spent 100 hours learning in the last 2 weeks, they're just going to see that as a waste of money. We need to start quantifying it to what matters to them. So if we're focusing on actually instigating performance change or behavioural change and we want to make an impact, that's what we need to be focused on, not how many clicks are we getting. And it goes back to that kind of vanity thing.
Or how many visits to the LMS, like who cares?
It all feeds in, absolutely. If you're getting no visits to the LMS and all of your learning lives there, well then you're going to really struggle to nudge performance change if that's your hub. But we need to think bigger picture, and I think I've said bigger picture too often in this podcast. But I mean,
let's circle back. Let's do some blue sky thinking.
We can get the low-hanging fruit first, Ash.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that you make some really valid points, and I forgot what I was going to say because I got distracted with trying to think of more ridiculous puns, if I'm entirely honest. I really want us to get to a place where even if we offer learning content libraries and a learning platform, there's a much more robust, there's more, the bigger learning interventions are the ones that we're measuring, and the ones that we're, we've got all this great stuff. If, once people are engaged with learning, your content libraries and the mass of them, the value add is a little bit more there than it is now because people don't think that it's useful. But, imagine identifying with the business through the discussions that you're having with your stakeholders and stuff. Okay, we're seeing like a massive dip in productivity with our sales team between these times of day, and we think it's because they're driving or they're in the car or something like that. Could we do something to help maybe them leverage that time more effectively? Could we do some training around how they could use the time that they're not at their desk? Blah, 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 blah. If you could then identify where people are now, salespeople are a great example because they log a lot in the CRM, like you've got a lot of data on that. Imagine being able to like do a pilot with that and say, look, we did this training. There's a group of people who didn't do the training, and there's a group of people who did do training. And with the people that did, we can clearly see that they've done X, Y, and Z. It's not, I've simplified what I understand is a very difficult and complex process, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. I would much rather the outputs from L&D be big strategic pieces that truly benefit the business than lots of tiny little interventions that don't really do a whole lot. In an attempt to deliver value through volume, we have overwhelmed and underwhelmed. And the tech that is supposed to be a massive enabler to all of that has become the limiter.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's your soundbite.
Yeah, but it's spot on, Ash. I think what you said earlier as well about technology is not a learning strategy is a real key takeaway as well, because at bare minimum, your strategy should be saying this is where we are now, this is where we want to be, and this is how we're going to get there. Just saying more content is not covering that at all. We need to be making sure that we've got a sound strategy that's aligned with business goals if we want to make a real impact. Tech is an enabler. Tech is a tool. Tech is a tactic. It is not strategy or impact.
No. And further to that, I think, when you were talking about engagement and things like that, we need to ask ourselves what engagement is and why it matters and what we really want to be measuring when it comes to engagement. But also really understanding that if we're looking at this as a product discussion, you're only going to get people to use your product if the user experience is good, there's a clear need for the user experience, and it's designed in a way that makes sense. So if you're just focusing on features when you're looking at these systems, I need social learning, I need an app, I need AI involved in it. Why? Unless you understand how that's going to pertain back to utility for the audience, and again, that goes back to having that research and having something really tangible to lean back into to say, well, actually, we really like this, but our audience doesn't need it. Again, do that research. Get some ideas about what you might want. Do some testing. Once you've procured your LMS, you can't really go back from that.
Yeah,
easily. It's like I said, you get wedded to these things.
Mm-hmm.
So don't dip the toe. Don't jump in with both feet. Do the pilot. Do a test. Because really, the best tech investments are the ones that solve a problem, a real legitimate learning problem. But you don't know what those learning problems are until you ask the questions and you talk to people. If your problem is we have an engagement problem, you need to go deeper.
Yeah.
Dig, like the onion in Shrek, and peel the layers. Have I made it weird?
When
I did get really close to my computer there, didn't I?
You really did as well.
I don't know why. I felt like got a bit intense there. It's just,
yes. She's very passionate about this.
You know what? I'm going on holiday after tomorrow.
I was literally about to say, I feel like you're definitely in holiday mode now.
No, I have.
We recorded this the day before our webinar as well. So if you were at the webinar, I anticipate that Ash did some more weird stuff in that as well.
No, people are watching me there. I'm very normal in those scenarios. It's just with you that I'm weird.
It's not a bad
thing.
So,
there you go. A little
we
snippet
started
of my life.
with weirdness. We've ended with nonsense. But hopefully somewhere in between there's some value there.
Yeah, I think I really want to encourage the narrative that, I know I did this on LinkedIn too, not because anyone said you're always really negative, but sometimes I feel like I'm really down on guys, what are we doing? This is not the way. And I maybe can be quite forceful with that at times. But to me, the solution is simple. Executing the solution is difficult. There is no denying that. There is a lot of work to be done. But we cannot continue in this way because things have changed drastically. And we're not keeping pace with that. And we're not adapting and evolving and in a way that we need to ensure that we are relevant and valuable to the people who are supposed to gain benefit from us, i.e. the business and the audience, right?
Yeah.
So, we have to do this work because otherwise, eventually, the budgets that you have to buy the new Wizzy tech will go because that's business. That is business. And if we care at all about the importance of learning, because it is crucial, and we know that, but we need to do the work to prove that again, I think, and starting with not tech, starting with people and talking to people and understanding what's really going on to then help you either get new products, evolve your products, curate new products, whatever it is, whatever that looks like. That's then going to put you in really good stead for the next episode that we're going to talk about, which is obviously campaigns piece and marketing and product are two sides of the same coin. We cannot do much with a shit product.
No.
And so it's great that, we can get some intrigue and build up some buzz and stuff like that. But it is the true term, putting lipstick on a pig, putting glitter on a turd. You can make things look nice, but it doesn't really change what it is. And actually
people
just
aren't stupid.
No, exactly.
They are inundated with technology platforms and Netflix and Spotify and ChatGPT, and they know the art of what's possible. And they're looking to you to deliver their expectations. And that's not an easy feat. Not saying it is, but it's the reality of what we need to do.
Yeah, that's it. We just need to take a big dose of humble pie and actually go, oh, okay, this is what the real world is. And this is what people are living in every day. And then this is what we're offering them.
Yeah.
But
we do love learning. We love learning and development. We are not bashing on the industry.
Not at
We
all.
love you.
And like you said, not even vendors either.
No.
We all have our role to play. It's just making sure that the things that you're getting and bringing into your organization are appropriate and genuinely solving the problems that you're trying to fix. Otherwise, it is just a complete waste of money. And vendors should be wanting to do that too, because if they want longevity in their products, they want continuity of service with their customers, they should want to understand how important it is to embed these products within the organization and ensure that they're being used to their full potential. So this is, this stuff benefits everybody. Yeah. It isn't a case of, put this new thing on. As Taylor Swift says, Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. So just do your research, guys, okay?
I don't know what to say to that.
Right, well, I've brought you guys some little snacks today, some little snippets of joy.
Useful, some pop culture, some Americanisms.
You might think I've been drinking, but I haven't.
She's just very excited to be on holiday next week.
Yeah, but I'm not excited to pack suitcases for 3 children. I've never gone on holiday with a baby that's 7 months old. Wish me luck, pray for me. I have to share a room with, Phil and the baby and at least one other child. I'm not going to get any sleep.
You'll want to come back to work for the holiday of being back.
Yeah. And it's a snowboarding holiday, so it's not restful. You're out adventuring and...
Yeah, but you love it.
I think last time I went, I snowboarded for about a half a day in total because everyone's still learning. It's a long game for me. Eventually,
last time you went, you got engaged as well, so...
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
We're going to the same place. Woo.
Exciting times.
He put a ring on it. He liked it. Yeah, cool. All right, well, I'm going to stop talking crap now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you loved our assertions on the importance of humanizing your technology and, doing the research, doing the do to make sure that actually what you do get is really aligned to your requirements rather than just the shiny, whizzy, bang, bang, bang thing.
Absolutely. So we will see you on the next episode of the Marketing for Learning podcast, guys.
Yes, you will. That's right. All right. Well, sorry for making it weird, Han. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.